Hello YouTube. I hope my audience is doing well and safe under the circumstances, and I hope we get out from this soon and this pandemic becomes history. But today I want to talk about the legend of the nine unknown. It's interesting, it's poignant to me because many years ago, when I was, I think, about 18, that I learned first about it, and it was in the books of Andrew Thomas, who was a Russian emigre who lived in Australia and a few other countries, and wrote about paranormal subjects and what can be called as mysterious archaeology and findings. This is when I first, I believe, found out about it. But let's get to the point. So, as long as the human civilization exists, so do many secret societies exist on this planet. Masons, Templars, Rosicrucians, and little is known about them because they know how to hide their secrets and hide them well. And one undisputed champion in secrecy undoubtedly has been the nine unknown. Number nine unknown society. Today it remains mysterious and still poorly understood. And this fraternity is so well concealed that for several centuries historians and researchers have been arguing, is there a union of the nine unknown in reality? For example, I know that it was of interest to Soviet researchers, and most of my investigation, not all, but most, is based on Russian language sources. And that comes after I learned about it from Andrew Thomas. But at the time, this was not my primarily point of research. But through the years, I was getting to be more interested in finding out, is there somebody in the back, hiding in the back of human history, who has been trying to guide it and help us? And I'm not speaking about anything divine. I'm speaking about purely on the level of human societies. The first mention of the nine unknown society dates back to the 3rd century BC. Legend connects it with the Indian ruler Ashoka. Continuing the work of his grandfather, King Chandragupta, Ashoka pursued a policy of unification of India, which was mired in civil strife at the time, but he was full of ambition and he went on to conquer the neighboring state of Kalinga, located between the present Calcutta and Madras. The war turned out to be bloody. In fierce battles, thousands of people died. The death toll shocked Ashoka. He refused further land annexation by fire and sword. He soberly concluded that the real conquest lies in the subjugation of the hearts of his subjects. Ashoka decided that if he were to unite India, then according to the laws of duty and piety, God wants all people to live in security, peace and happiness, and enjoy the freedom to have it themselves. To put it simply, the king underwent a complete reappraisal of values. It seemed as if Ashoka had been replaced. Wanting to benefit the living people and their descendants, he forbade the use of the creations of the mind for evil purposes. However, the wise ruler was well aware, just by prohibition, even a powerful king cannot control not just the future, but even the present. To do this, it was necessary to create an organization whose members would protect humanity from humanity itself. And so a powerful secret society of nine unknown, anonymous guardians of ancient wisdom and knowledge emerged. Then, to ensure that advanced knowledge did not fall into the hands of profane fools and overly ambitious personalities, this became the main task of the Brotherhood. Many sciences which, according to Ashoka, could harm humanity were classified. Of course, the Indian king understood that advancement, like human thought, cannot be prohibited. Therefore, he tried to entice the great scientists, magicians, astrologers, and philosophers of that time, so that they continue their research in various fields of knowledge, but would not be in a hurry to publish discoveries and inventions. Many great minds then became a part of a secret society. But only 8 people, that's what I understood, were initiated into the global plan of the ruler of Ashoka. So 8 plus 1, he would be the 9th. All the rest knew only part of the great plan stretching for centuries. Under the guise of merchants, the king sent emissaries of the Union to Tibet, China, Japan, and Arabia to recruit scientists from other countries, to draw knowledge from them. All extracted intelligence was accumulated and analyzed in secluded places, specially created for this purpose. Archives were also kept in well-protected stashes, or secret places, to ensure secrecy. These fraternity members deliberately spread rumors that secret laboratories and vaults were being guarded by terrible monsters in order to discourage adventurers from poking their nose where they shouldn't. Century after century, 9 chosen ones guarded advanced knowledge and technology from people, waiting until humanity was ready to react correctly to news of new discoveries and inventions. The brothers wanted people to use their knowledge only for the good, not for the detriment. But it did not always turn out that way. The human mind is too inventive to be a prisoner, and human thought is capable of fooling even the most watchful guard. The 9 unknown could not save the world from either cruelty, nor wars, nor from epidemics and pandemics. But who knows? Maybe there would be even worse disasters if there were not the watchful eyes of the 9 unknown next to us. So who are they? The composition of the 9 unknown is perhaps the biggest mystery. It is only known that when one of the brothers was dying, another came in his place, equally gifted, just as good at keeping secrets. One can only guess to whom such an honor fell, or was it a dark destiny? But such assumptions, such conjectures exist. I do not know about any female members of this society, so I will go on what I have, but maybe in the future we'll find out more. Anyway, Pope Sylvester II, also known as Herbert of Aurillac, he died in 1003, is called a member of the 9 unknown. He was a great scientist and encyclopedist. He collected unusual manuscripts, wrote treatises on astronomical instruments, geometry, and music. His knowledge of mathematics, physics, and mechanics was ahead of time. But most importantly, he tried to create a universal Christian state and reconcile among themselves people of different faiths in that state. Akbar, the Indian Padishah from the great Mughal dynasty, who lived in the 16th century, is also ranked among the 9 unknown. The chronicles of Akbar's rule resemble a tale from the 1001 Nights. It was at this time that the empire reached its peak. In 1578, Akbar issued a decree, quite striking for its time, proclaiming freedom of religion and abolished the death penalty for apostasy. He had gathered at his court the best scientists, practitioners, and philosophers. As usual, most of the archives after his death disappeared without a trace. Now, among the 9 unknown are named Leonardo da Vinci, Roger Bacon, and Paracelsus, born Theophrastus von Hohenheim. But alas, there is no documentary evidence of this. You know what? I'll talk about Leonardo da Vinci later. Of course, you can dismiss this whole story about a society that has been hidden or concealed and still hides advanced knowledge from unprepared humanity for more than 2,000 years. But you know what? Some facts that have taken place in history unambiguously hint at the existence of a secret knowledge bank. In the 13th century, the English monk and philosopher Roger Bacon predicted the invention of the telescope, airplane, car, and telephone. What was it? Foresight or negligence, or as a result of which the secret was revealed before the due time? What about Leonardo da Vinci's ideas about a helicopter, a submarine, ball bearings, and tracts? And are they also astounding guesses? But I will look at that angle later. There was another person in Europe who was suspected to be part of the society. He was Daniel Schwender, who passed away in 1636. He was a German Orientalist, mathematician, inventor, poet, and librarian. In 1636, Daniel Schwender, in his work Delicia Physico-Mathematica, Physical and Mathematical Entertainment, outlined the principles of the electric telegraph and talked about the possibility of communication between two people with each other through a magnetic beam. Another unidentified author from Monteberg in Flanders in 1729 published a description of the process of black and white and color photography. From his work it follows that he received photographs using a ready-made recipe, not knowing either the physical principle of action or the composition of the chemical compounds of the developer and fixative. The question who gave him this recipe remains open. What sources did Jonathan Swift use when telling in his Gulliver novels about the two satellites of Mars 156 years before their discovery? Now here I'm asking you to look at my videos about Phobos and Mars, ancient knowledge and destruction of the Soviet probes. Also, where did Dante Alighieri get the description of the constellation of the Southern Cross given to him in the Divine Comedy 200 years before the Europeans knew about it? Apparently members of the Union of Nine Unknown, if there is really one, did not always keep their mouths shut. Well, in the end, they were all only human beings, so you understand. But in the 19th century, Louis Jacoliot revealed to the world the existence of the Society of the Nine Unknown. As the French consul in Calcutta under Napoleon III, he had access to many secret documents. Upon his death, Jacoliot left a library of rare books dedicated to the great secrets of mankind. In one of his own writings, he bluntly stated that the Union of Nine Unknown existed and still exists. And remember, he spent time in India, so he might have known what Ashoka knew. In this regard, he mentioned the technologies that were completely unimaginable in 1860, such as energy release, radiation sterilization, and psychological warfare. According to Jacoliot, for 22 centuries in the territory controlled by Union of Nine, well, this is the entire civilized world basically, secret research was conducted in all areas of knowledge, the results of which were recorded in special books. And this valuable piggy bank of scientific thought and technology is located in the area of the main activity of the Union of Nine Unknown. Now listen carefully. In the south of the Samara province of the Russian Empire, in the Orenburg steppes. So in any case, the Frenchman claimed in his book Fire Eaters, which was published in Russia in a limited edition on the eve of the 1917 revolution or counter-revolution, call it what you want. But this is very interesting, the location that he indicates. You see, local Samara historian Ratnik, being interested in this information, tried to establish the exact place of the deployment of the Nine Unknown. Alas, he managed to find only that in the Orenburg steppes, those wide open, endless areas, like American plains, Russian archaeologists found a mysterious mound conditionally dated to the end of the 3rd, beginning of the 2nd millennium BC. In the burial day was discovered the skeleton of an elderly man, a rich funerary inventory, and a sword club made of copper, in appearance very similar to the sacred weapon of the ancient Indian god of thunder. The Orenburg Samara location of the 9 unknown is indirectly confirmed by the information of the historian and ethnographer Kirill Serebnitsky, according to which a certain dynasty of hermits with secret forces lived in the Orenburg steppes from ancient times. I research Russian secret history, paranormal, all those subjects, and I've been following up on interesting discoveries. And they say that there's an underground city near Samara. Digger tales, people who dig for interesting artifacts. You should watch my video about their adventures too. Anyway, digger tales about underground passages leading to huge holes, about the passages along the riverbeds of Samara and Volga rivers, periodically confirmed by the finds of the builders. While digging pits under foundation, this is where they meet deep wells, vast cellars, few other things. Rumors about the dungeons of Samara and the secrets stored in them are numerous. You know what? It is said that at one time, under the ground, excuse me, almost a whole city was built, which even apparently has a railway connected to a network of bunkers. But again, there were secrets from the Soviet period too, but well before then as well. So far the city has not been seen, but the search for this underground city is constant, and professionals and lovers of dungeons, located directly near Samara, they look for it. There are quite a lot of sites for them to look at, both active, military, and therefore classified, and also abandoned. In principle, in some places, underground passages really could exist, and some could even be preserved until now, but they have not been found yet. This is largely to complete lack of any clear information about what is lurking underground. Even the official authorities do not have a complete description of all the underground buildings of Samara. And let me tell you about these steps, about the Orenburg. To a traveler who gets into that area, they seem to be tediously monotonous. Feather grass, chains of sand hills, and bare salt licks. But this deceptive monotony preserves many mysteries and secrets, hiding the underground caves of the highwaymen, robbers, monastery dwellings, labyrinths, secret defensive structures. The secrets of the dungeons were known to a few initiates who disappeared into the vortex of cruel and difficult times. Deliberate secrecy, lack of official written information hide the truth, and this gives birth to legends. I want to tell you that not far from there is the legends of the Chud people, interesting people who disappeared into the bowels of our planet a long time ago. And I have to do a separate video about this, of the Russian legends, and it takes us again to the Ural Mountains, which I described before in a number of my videos, but we'll talk about it separately. I like this Russian clue about the 9 unknown, and we'll talk hopefully in the future about more, but let's move on. Let's talk about other knowledge of the 9 unknown. You see, in 1923, Talbot Mundy, a prolific writer who spent some time in India, Africa, and Australia, published a novel. In it, the British-born author claimed that the 9 unknown really exist. According to Mandi, each member of the society is the custodian of one book devoted to a particular branch of knowledge. These books are constantly replenished, being in fact the most complete collections of scientific works in the entire history of the existence of mankind. The first book is about propaganda techniques and psychological warfare techniques. Of all the sciences, said Mandi, the most dangerous is the science of controlling the thoughts of the crowd, because it allows you to control the whole world. The second is devoted to human nervous system. It describes in detail how to control the flow of nerve currents in the body, how to kill and revive a person with just one touch. By the way, some researchers believe that many martial arts were born due to the leak of information from this source of knowledge. The third book is devoted to micro and microbiology. The fourth is chemistry. In particular, it talks about the mutual transformation and transmutation of metals. If this is so, then it turns out that the hopes of medieval alchemists to learn how to turn lead into gold has a foundation. The fifth book is about terrestrial and extraterrestrial communications. The sixth book is devoted to physics and mathematics, in particular to secrets of gravity. The seventh tells about such phenomena as light, solar, electric, etc. The eighth contains information on cosmogony and the laws of space development. And finally, the ninth is devoted to sociology and talks about the laws of the evolution of society. It allows us to predict their origin, stages of development, and extinction. There have been a few other very interesting books on the subject, by the way. In connection with the foregoing, one can only guess about the degree of power of those who use the experience, works, and documents of the nine unknown. The concept of the nine unknown was also popularized by Louis Pauwels and Jacques Berger in their 1960 book, The Morning of the Magicians. I read it years ago in Russian, and I think I still have a copy. They claimed that the nine unknown were real and had been founded by the Indian Emperor Ashoka. They also claimed that the Pope Sylvester II had met them, and that 19th century French colonial administrator and writer Louis Jacolier insisted on their existence, which I told you before. But does this society really exist? Who knows? I'm sure some people do know. But if the union of nine is reality, it is encouraging. That means that the brothers, or maybe with sisters, will be able to protect humanity from both nuclear wars and neutron weapons. Who knows? Maybe pandemics too. If not, let's just console ourselves with the fact that this myth, which has come down to us from the depths of centuries, indicates to mankind the direction in which we should move. But now I want to look at what some Soviet researchers pursued, trying to find out whether the society exists. And I don't mean some secretive intelligence or KGB research. No, I'm talking about those who pursued this search for knowledge on their own. Sometimes they were even able to find some of their to publish some of their finds. And because of that, I want to look at Tommaso Massini. Tommaso Massini, also known as Zoroaster from Peretola, was a friend and collaborator of Leonardo da Vinci, who lived in the 15th and 16th century, like a few other people that I mentioned before in this video. Not much is known about his life except that he was born in the village of Peretola, and he was the son of a gardener, although he claimed to be illegitimate son of a nobleman. Well, some historians have identified Tommaso Massini as the natural son of Bernardo Rucellai. Rucellai was the husband of Lorenzo de Medici's sister Nannina de Medici. Zoroaster met Leonardo da Vinci in Florence in 1482. Through their mutual friendship with Atalanta Magliarotti, a musician, Zoroaster escorted Leonardo on many journeys, one that brought all three friends to the Sforza court in Milan, where he was employed as a mechanic and magician. In 1505, Tommaso was back in Florence with Da Vinci and prepared the colors for the famous painting The Battle of Anghiari. It's a lost painting. He also famously took part in the testing of a flying machine designed by Leonardo. He launched from Mount Cecere at Fiesole a torch to the machine designated by his friend, but the trial ended in a disastrous fall, fortunately without any irreparable consequences. He just broke his leg. So, again, it was called, I believe it was called ornithopter, and it flew 1,000 meters before landing very abruptly. Some historians say that Tommaso Mazzini became a vegetarian because of Leonardo's influence, and like Leonardo, he was a lifelong bachelor. It is also said that he took great pleasure in the occult sciences. There is no further information on the man except that he was still in Florence about 1530. He died in Rome at a later date of cholera. Now, here's what the Soviet researchers established. The legends of the great Leonardo da Vinci, a mixture of truth, speculation, and fiction, are naturally repeated in almost every book about him. There is an undeniable information, sculpture, painting, drawings. Leonardo da Vinci, as a designer and engineer, that's a harder puzzle to solve. Contemporaries saw him primarily as a brilliant artist. People learned about the engineering heritage of Leonardo mainly from his records, many years after his death. It is curious that Leonardo writes about all his inventions very briefly, succinctly, I say, almost with only symbols. His own eye is as if bifurcated. Looking to his writings, there are no words like, for example, I did, I decided, I found. But it repeated countless times words like research, check, find out, do. Was it because of modesty? See, that's the trait that was not something Leonardo's biographers observed. After all, look at this record. Do not reveal this to anyone and you will surpass everyone. Belongs to him. The question arises, are all the scientific and engineering ideas attributed to Leonardo, are there's his sole property? The history of science, for example, knows this fact. Many inventions considered to be a brainchild of Edison were in fact the result of the work of a large number of employees in his laboratory, or were variants of existing inventions. Leonardo did not have such employees, did not describe the laboratory, and did not show like a well from which he could draw ideas. But all of a sudden, it all existed. All his brilliant ideas came from nowhere. Let's see where he worked as an engineer, who throughout his creative life was near him, but remained unappreciated by his descendants. Being like in the shadow of a brilliant Italian. See, young Leonardo, a student of the artist Andrea Verrocchio, together with his friends, loved to go to the cave, the so-called foundry of the magician from Peretola, Tommaso Mazzini, a short, stocky man with a good-natured face, and as if strangers, strangely looking on him, dark, inquisitive eyes. They descended, this company, going downstairs under the ground in many steps, and fell into a world where the reality merged with the fabulous or fantastic, where the distant past was adjacent to the amazing present, where the master worked miracles with fire and iron. In a perfectly round dungeon, they were seated behind a round wooden table. There were no windows in the walls, no holes opening to the surface, no apertures, but the air remained fresh, watered by the aroma of meadow herbs. Steel forged candelabra burned candles. They burned with multicolored fire. The table is set, drinks are arranged, and with a light pass, Mazzini puts out those candles. Absolute darkness is there only for a few minutes, but then a hand lizard is already sliding between the goblets on the table like a fiery snake. Then spots of cold light flare up on the walls, white, red, yellow. People begin to see each other, dishes on the table. They distinguish the color of wine. Dozens of times Mazzini received young men in his cave, and they were always surprised by this slowly flaring cold light on the walls. Leonardo was especially curious. "Explain," he would ask. But Mazzini only smiled. Unusual machines were placed along the walls. On narrow tables are models of hydraulic structures and forged metalcraft. On the walls are drawings of some unknown monsters, winged lizards, birds. "Very rational forms," reasoned Leonardo. "Where did you draw them from?" Mazzini just smiled and said nothing. But once, after an interesting conversation, the young artist left that cave. After they left the cave, Tommaso Mazzini put his hand on Leonardo's shoulder and he told him, "Stay." Locking the door behind the guests, Mazzini returned to the dungeon, went to the wall and lifted the lever protruding from it. The previously invisible door opened into the dark void. Mazzini lit a candle and called Leonardo, "Follow me." Bending their heads, they went through a short tunnel. Tommaso lit a niche and there was a metal chest in it. He easily opened the cover. The chest was filled with parchment scrolls. "Take any of them, Leonardo, and look." The young man took the first scroll that fell under his arms. He unfolded it. Tommaso pushed the candle. Leonardo looked at the drawing and his eyes opened wider with amazement. Under spread out wings, a man flew. It was like a flying man. This episode that I just told you was reconstructed by Soviet researcher Vladimir Kazakov in full accordance with the legends that survived to the present times. There were plenty of them about Tommaso Mazzini. It was as if he had made a long journey to the Middle East. He was kindly treated by sages and rulers there, but returned from them without any gold or precious stones, but with only one chest, where pieces rattled, tablets, and rustling all parchments, scrolls. They rustled when you opened them and looked at them one way or another, but contemporaries knew for certain. He returned from the East as a great master of foundry skills, an excellent mechanic, sculptor, chiseler, chemist, expert in hydraulic works, and he became to engage in alchemy and black magic, which was how it was called at the time, for which he was nicknamed by the people the legendary thinker Zoroaster. He produced unusual mechanical items, luminous paints, and he could surprise with cold fire. But he was a man of silence and kept his work and much about him, and of course the chest with those parchments and a few other interesting things, they were all kept secret. So Mazzini welcomed young artists in his cave. He was very hospitable. He treated them nicely, encouraged them to debate on various issues, as if he was looking closely, listening to them, and appreciating the intelligence of young men. And it so happened that he distinguished Leonardo more than others, confidently talked to him, sparingly admired mathematical abilities, and he talked to Leonardo about his research and his studies, to which Leonardo was very eagerly, of course, attracted. Despite the class differences, they became friends. The author of the Soviet book titled Leonardo da Vinci, Zhiverlegov, called Tommaso Mazzini a pupil of Leonardo. The author of another book of the same name, Dityakin considers Massini to be the servant of a great painter, while Italian biographers of Leonardo are sure that they were friends, moreover inseparable. And Tommaso Massini had considerable influence on his friend in many matters, was his assistant. In some matters, apparently he played the first role, and that it was Leonardo who was his assistant. And it was no accident that the beginning artist and friend of Leonardo, a certain Lorenzo di Credi, was amazed when he saw a notebook in his hands. He saw that Leonardo was writing with his left hand from right to left, using mysterious signs. Leonardo at that time was only 19 years old, but he was already connected by friendship with Tommaso Massini. It was precisely in these years that Leonardo da Vinci became a vigorous inventive activity, although he still could not have vast knowledge that biographers subsequently noted. He acquired the knowledge. He visited scientists, among whom were astronomers, mathematicians, geographers, doctors, architects, historians. He attended their debates and listened silently. Tommaso Massini very often visited these forums, but as a servant of Leonardo, since commoners were not allowed to such conversations and debates. At the same time, Leonardo and Tommaso Massini designed and created models of the lightest bridges, sump pumps, rapid bombardment, prototype of a machine gun, mobile fortress, prototype of a tank, and much more. It seems that Leonardo was in a hurry to put on paper technical ideas and schemes of various mechanisms. There is no mention anywhere that he insisted on the implementation of his inventions. There were only models that Tommaso Massini made. As if justifying this principle unusual for inventors, biographers know that Leonardo's will was sluggish, and he was affected, it's like suppressed by thoughts. Therefore, in art, he was a great procrastinator. Is this the reason that he slowed down implementation? Well, returning from the Middle East, where he learned not only about the cult of worshipping the sun, but also the secret of turning lead into gold, Tommaso Massini composed paints for Leonardo, unusual for that time, some made from wax, for example. Leonardo and Tommaso, writes Bruno Nardini, these two fearless researchers challenged the Inquisition, which was just waiting for the moment when they could be caught at the crime scene and put like heretics in the dock. It looks like Leonardo had a co-author, and there was a laboratory, a cave, that belonged to Tommaso Massini. The more you share your work with a large number of people, the less you will belong to yourself, wrote Leonardo. He and Tommaso Massini clothed their activities with utter secrecy. They had no families and really no close friends. Leonardo left Verrocchio, the artist studio, at the age of 24, when he was accused of heresy but was acquitted for lack of direct evidence. Since then, as a painter, he has been working independently, but biographers say most of the work of those years was gone. Where was the work? Perhaps something else was taking place during those years. Some quite different activities took place, and his attention and time. Now let's return to the mysterious chest. As the question always revolves in the link, what did Massini bring in that chest? For many years he communicated with the Middle East, in the Middle East, with priests, successors of not spiritual only, but also material culture of the past. They probably had some ready-made recipes that they jealously hid from the common people. But perhaps some part of this knowledge was obtained by Massini, and having such a treasure, how to use it without the brilliant mind and social status of Leonardo da Vinci. Massini was a commoner. So many secrets of the mysteries of the biography of Leonardo da Vinci are waiting to be solved. And we in no way diminish the greatness of the ingenious Florentine, even if having penetrated his creative laboratory, we will find that not all his ideas and inventions belong to him personally. and if we properly evaluate his comrade in arms and co-author Commoner Massini and his work, all that Leonardo da Vinci left, paintings, murals, sculptures, inventions, developed ideas and so on, is the job that took time. Taking into account the genius of Leonardo, not making any discounts on that laziness that was noted by biographers. According to a specially developed program, Soviet researchers asked a computer at one time, how many years did Leonardo da Vinci take to do all his work, all his accomplishments? The response of the computer translated into human language was this: at least 74 years of creative life. So if programmers were not mistaken, then Leonardo began to create 7 years before his birth. But they didn't account for Tommaso Massini's help. And I think that Tommaso Massini could have been a member of this Society of Nine Unknown. Look, I think we're on the right trail. I'm grateful to researchers from the Soviet Union who, on their own volition, usually without official permission of their ideological communist supervisors, and permission from anyone else, they studied the realm of the paranormal and the long-lost history. And I try to mention their names like Garbovsky, Furdui, and others, Kazakov, through my videos, and I always underline the importance and the almost impossible knowledge that Ivan Yefremov possessed and knew, and the whole history of his life and what happened after his death. That's very interesting, and you will find it in my videos. And I urge you to pay attention to it, because there is something that we don't know about that exists with us on this planet. And it's not supernatural in the sense ascribed to it, but something we do not know, some presence that may actually help us, or maybe help save us from our own idiotic mistakes once in a while. But this collection of knowledge, these legends of the Nine Unknown and other societies, it's very interesting. I'll continue my research, and I'll continue presenting videos on such subjects. And of course, if you can help me, you can see how you can do it in the description of this video. And I wish my audience to stay well and healthy, and I look forward to presenting more of my research. Thank you.